Igad employers, as well as the Horn of Africa Confederation of Trade Unions. Excellency, with your permission, I request if the panel of member state ministers is complete so that I can take the next activity on the program. Excellency, guest of honor, please allow me invite the Director of Social Affairs of Igad to address you and to address the conference. You're welcome, Madam Fatia.
Good morning, bonjour and salamu alaikum to all of you. Thanks, Madame Lucie, the moderator. Excellence, Monsieur Abdelkader Mohamed Kamil, Premier ministre de la République de Djibouti. Excellence, Isman Ibrahim Roble, ministre du Travail et de la Protection sociale de la République de Djibouti. Excellence Dr. Werkene Gebeyehu, the Igad Executive Secretary of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development. Excellence, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres des États membres de l'Igad en charge de l'emploi et de la protection sociale. Excellence, Mesdames et Messieurs les ambassadeurs et représentants des corps diplomatiques en République de Djibouti. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs les représentants et représentantes des agences des institutions partenaires, Mesdames et Messieurs, tout protocole respecté. It is actually an honor for me as a director of the Igad Social Development to actually heartily welcome you all in this great city of the Republic of Djibouti, which is also the Igad headquarters. I wish also to express my sincere appreciation to His Excellency the Prime Minister of Djibouti to find time from his busy schedule because of this important conference of Ministers of Labor. Excellencies, I would like to inform you that the expert meeting that has been held for the last 2 days has been very productive, and also we have ironed out of a very number of important issues in a frank, transparent, constructive, and cordial manner. Excellencies, the participants from the Igad member state were extremely engaged, and also we came up with a good product that is the draft ministerial declaration that will be tabled to your excellencies for consideration. This has been the first ever ministerial meeting on labor, employment, and mobility. And Igad is also very grateful for the government of Djibouti to lead the grand and timely initiative. In particular also, we extend our sincere gratitude to the Minister, His Excellency, the Ministers of Labor, Mr. Isman Roble, for opening the expert meeting on a very important holiday, which was the birthday of our Prophet Muhammad. May I also express my deepest appreciation to His Excellency Dr. Werkene, who is our Executive Secretary of Igad, for his guidance and direction on the entire process. On that note, I have the honor to invite His Excellency Dr. Werkene to give us his welcoming remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Fatia, and congratulations for this successful meeting. Our guest of honor, Your Excellency Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed, Prime Minister of the Republic of Djibouti, Your Excellency Isman Ibrahim Robale, Minister for Labor in charge of Formalization and Social Protection, Republic of Djibouti, Your Excellency Taisar Al-Noor Mohammed, Representative of Republic of Sudan, our Chair, Your Excellencies, Cabinet Ministers of the Republic of Djibouti, Your Excellency Alexo Musindo, Director of ILO in our region, Your Excellencies, representatives from international organizations, dear participants, distinguished member state representatives, ambassadors, good morning. It is indeed an honor and privilege for me to welcome you all to this first Igad Ministerial Conference of Labor, Employment, and Labor Migration. First, I sincerely want to thank the government and the people of Djibouti, our gracious host, for hosting the Igad Secretariat and the dozens of Igad staffs here in Djibouti, including myself, who are labor migrants here in Djibouti. It has been said that the first thing that a migrant sends back home is not money, it is a story. If this is true, Your Excellencies, then I can assure you that for those of us who have come to work here in Djibouti, we have sent back stories of not just how hot Djibouti is, but also how peaceful and beautiful Djibouti, the country of very friendly and beautiful people. Labor migration is aspiration in motion. It is an expression of desire of greater economic opportunities, improved social security, and more secure livelihood. History has been the side of the countries that receive migrants. They have proven to be the invaluable assets that have made an incalculable contribution to the building of some of the greatest nations on earth. Here in the Igad region, Your Excellency, our greatest asset is our people, which is the source of labor. According to latest African Union Migration Statistics report, over half of our population, that is more or less 53.6%, is of working age between 18 and 16. This means that we have over 150 million people in our region capable of being economically productive. However, the functional economic opportunities in this region do not match the labor asset we have in hand. The review of labor participation data in the region showed that only 38.8% of our people were actively engaged in the labor force. This means that 6 out of 10 of Igad citizens, which is 250 million citizens, are not fully participating in the labor force. The limited ability of the regional labor market to accommodate existing workers and absorb the new entrants is one of the principal drivers of our labor migration from our region. At the same time, Your Excellencies, the Igad region is also home of the influx of labor migrants. Between 2008 and 2017, the number of migrants coming to seek work in the Igad region increased by 196%. According to the African Union, this makes Igad and the East Africa region the second most popular destination for labor migrants after South Africa. This exponential growth in the number of migrant workers is in stark contrast with the modest growth of the population and labor force in Igad region. The statistics revealed that 3 times more international migrant workers are entering Africa's labor market compared to the indigenous labor force. This is creating increased competition for job and entrepreneurial opportunities. This notwithstanding, the Igad region is also endowed with a significant natural and human resource, including potentially arable land, hydro and marine assets, mineral oils and gas reserves, alternative energy sources, transport and communication infrastructures, and most importantly, a vibrant youth base that accounts for over 65% of our regional population. A vast majority of this constitutes, Your Excellency, a dormant capital base which, if properly activated and tapped into, holds significant potential to unlock and create vast employment and livelihood opportunities. From a realistic perspective, Your Excellencies, a number of important preconditions must be met and structural obstacles overcome in order to effectively unlock these opportunities, but also exploit them with any measurable degree of sustainability. First and foremost, it goes without saying that peace, security, and stability are the bedrock upon which a solid economic, social, and regulatory base is laid upon. As long as fragility persists in Igad at a regional, national, and subnational levels, progress in creating employment, grooming and effective working and regularizing labor migration will remain very limited. We all therefore have a collective duty, Your Excellency, to lend our support in resolving disputes and preventing conflict at regional, national, and intercommunal levels. We need to diversify the economic base of Igad region in order to reduce reliance on the agriculture and public sector for employment creation. We must also deliberately address the mismatch between the skills that are available and the demand of the labor market. This calls for simultaneously analyzing future employment trend and recalibrating our national education system accordingly to generate the required skill. We must pay attention to the regulatory and protection environment for workers and migrant laborers. Whilst my first 2 observations above are broad-based proposals, Your Excellencies, that require a whole-of-society approach, this suggestion falls squarely within the ambit of Igad and our partners at this meeting. Already between Igad and our member states, the AU and the United Nations system represented today by the ILO, existed a wide-ranging regulatory framework that seeks to advance and protect the right of labor and migrant workers. In this rich regulatory environment, the challenge lies in translating our well-intentioned policies into tangible actions. For instance, we are all well aware of the disheartening account of the systemic abuse and exploitation of migrant workers, especially from the Igad region, who continue to make a significant contribution to the economies of other countries. This is an opportunity for this platform to put Your Excellencies, in place a regional mechanism that is sufficiently empowered to engage at the bilateral and multilateral level with regular bodies and nations that are implementing legal framework that discriminate against migrant workers in a labor law and promote normative system which grant employees excessive control over migrant workers. The endorsement of the Igad regional guidelines on the right-based bilateral labor agreement at this meeting, Your Excellencies, will go a long way in formulating agreements that improve decent working conditions and enhance legal protection for migrants from our region. Most of them are crossing the rivers, the oceans, and the sea. Moreover, the success of African Continental Free Trade Area relies squarely upon free movement of people, capital, and service within our continent. In this regard, Igad has made significant strides toward realizing free movement regions through the universal adoption of the Igad Protocol on Free Movement and its implementation roadmap by the Council of Ministers of Igad region in June of this year. For this, I want to thank the foreign ministers of the Igad region, chaired by Sudan, for the endorsement of very historical protocol of free movement of people. And also we are expecting the ratification of that document. Whereas we are encouraging that 32 out of the 55 African Union member states have signed the AU protocol in free movements, Igad is nevertheless concerned that only 4 have ratified it. So we also need the support from this forum, this meeting, Your Excellencies, for the endorsement and ratification of these documents. Finally, I will conclude my remark by noting that we cannot improve what we have not measured. It is vital that all our activities, interventions, and innovations are based on solid evidence, credible data, and insightful analysis. During my preparation for this meeting, Your Excellencies, it concerned me greatly that some of the labor data we are relying upon is almost 5 years out of date. I call upon this meeting to come up with ways and means through which we will have a clearer and more up-to-date pictures of the Igad labor market, which is very significant and important for our economy. In this regard, I propose the establishment of the regional observatory that will closely monitor labor market trends. I further urge this meeting to consider formulating mechanisms to redress the limited capacity of our labor market institutions to collect and disseminate sector disaggregated employment data that can be collected within the regional labor market formation system. Before I conclude, I want to thank again, Excellency, the Prime Minister, who came to grace us from his very busy schedule, and also I want to thank the ministers, our member states who came from different countries to this beautiful country, and hope this meeting will be successful. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The moderator has given me an authority to call upon the next speakers. So, Your Excellency, your permission, I want to call His Excellency, Honorable Minister of Labor in charge of Formalization and Social Protection, Republic of Djibouti, His Excellency Isman Ibrahim Robale, Your Excellency.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Excellences, Monsieur le Premier ministre, Excellences, Madame la Présidente de la Conférence des ministres des pays de l'Igad du Travail, Excellences, Monsieur le Secrétaire exécutif de l'Igad, Excellences, Monsieur le ministre des pays membres de l'Igad, ministre du Travail, de l'Emploi, Excellences, Messieurs les ministres et chers collègues de Djibouti, Mesdames et Messieurs les ambassadeurs, Monsieur le coordinateur des agences des Nations Unies, Excellences, Monsieur le représentant de l'Union européenne, distingués invités en vos rangs et grades, tout protocole observé. Permettez-moi, en ma qualité de ministre du Travail chargé de la formalisation et de la protection sociale, de souhaiter à toutes et à tous ici présents une chaleureuse bienvenue en ce jour particulier. C'est un grand honneur et un agréable devoir pour moi de prendre la parole à l'ouverture de cette conférence ministérielle organisée par l'Igad et l'Organisation internationale du travail relative au travail, à l'emploi et à la migration de la main-d'œuvre. La conférence ministérielle qui démarre ce jour est la première du genre et augure une nouvelle ère de coopération régionale en matière de travail, d'emploi et de migration de main-d'œuvre. La République de Djibouti a le privilège d'accueillir cette initiative pilote. Elle est fière de cette opportunité de pouvoir soutenir à son niveau et d'encourager la promotion du travail décent et du plein emploi, car elle introduit de manière concrète notre politique de lutte contre le chômage, en particulier celui des jeunes, et notre détermination à la promotion de la paix sociale qui passe par l'inclusion, le respect de la dignité des couches vulnérables. Aussi, voudrais-je rendre un vibrant hommage, appuyé et mérité, à son Excellence, Monsieur le Premier ministre, Monsieur Abdelkader Kamil Mohamed, dont les efforts et l'engagement ont contribué à la mise en place d'une politique nationale de l'emploi et qui parraine aujourd'hui notre rencontre. Je ne peux également me retenir pour exprimer avec insistance la cordiale bienvenue à mes collègues ministres du Travail, leurs collaborateurs et les partenaires sociaux venus de loin qui ont répondu à notre invitation pour prendre part à cette conférence de nature à créer une plateforme régionale en faveur de la promotion de l'emploi des jeunes. Excellences, Monsieur le Premier ministre, distingués invités, cette rencontre qui se tient dans un contexte particulier où l'épidémie de la Covid-19 perdure dans la plupart de nos pays, nous rappelle à suffisance que notre sous-région est décidément bouleversée par la pandémie et que nous devons nous adapter aux nouvelles circonstances pour construire un monde de travail plus résilient grâce au développement durable, au travail décent, à l'emploi productif et à l'inclusion sociale. À travers cette initiative, nous sommes amenés à redoubler d'efforts et à créer une nouvelle dynamique autour d'une vision de responsabilité et de solidarité. C'est une invitation à traduire dans les faits nos politiques publiques en matière d'emploi et à être conformes à nos feuilles de route gouvernementales qui expriment nos positionnements par rapport à la promotion de l'emploi. Et de fait, à Djibouti, nous avons fait le choix d'accorder la priorité des priorités à l'emploi et à la mise en place d'une coalition multipartite pour le contrat social, pour le contrat national de confiance pour l'emploi initié par le président de la République, son Excellence Ismaël Omar Guelleh. Aujourd'hui, je note avec plaisir le caractère solennel de cette conférence qui témoigne de la haute importance que revêt cette problématique et offre à notre jeunesse de meilleures perspectives d'emploi. Un mouvement est lancé et la mobilisation de l'ensemble des acteurs autour du présent événement nous conforte quant à l'indispensable soutien de chacun pour affronter cette question d'emploi des jeunes devenue un phénomène mondial. Avec la tenue de cette première conférence, c'est l'espoir d'un jour nouveau qui s'ouvre sur le secteur de l'emploi dans nos pays. C'est le lieu pour moi d'affirmer avec fierté que la détermination du ministère du Travail, de la formalisation et de la protection sociale a contribué au niveau de ladite conférence avec professionnalisme, rigueur et pragmatisme pour fédérer dans un cadre partenarial les énergies de tous les acteurs impliqués de la sous-région, car, comme vous le savez, l'emploi pour tout un chacun, c'est trouver sa place dans la société et le ministère et ses partenaires associés doivent s'y consacrer. Dès lors, soyons unis dans la diversité et fiers de notre mission et mettons à profit le travail acharné des experts et continuons ensemble à progresser dans nos efforts. Le ministère du Travail, chargé de la formalisation et de la protection sociale, reconfirme son engagement et son adhésion au travail d'équipe sous-régional qui sera mis en place. Je réitère ma gratitude à mes confrères des pays membres de l'Igad et les appels de tous nos vœux à une réforme majeure qui marque ce positionnement et à renforcer la priorité accordée à la lutte contre la précarité, le chômage, le sous-emploi et la pauvreté. Je me permettrai de terminer mon intervention pour saluer l'action de l'Igad et de l'Organisation internationale du travail pour leur dévouement et leur engagement dans les problématiques du travail, de l'emploi et de la migration de la main-d'œuvre qui demeure une composante essentielle du développement de nos pays respectifs. Je remercie très chaleureusement l'Union européenne pour son financement, l'Organisation internationale du travail et l'Igad pour l'organisation de la première conférence ministérielle de l'Igad sur le travail à Djibouti. Je vous remercie de votre aimable attention. Merci.
Thank you very much, Excellency Minister. And also I want to take this opportunity to thank you personally for working very closely with Igad to make this conference a reality. Thank you, Excellency. Now I call our partners. The first speaker is going to be the UN Resident Coordinator in Djibouti, the brand new one, Mr. Arik. The floor is yours.
Son Excellence, Monsieur le Premier ministre, Excellence, Monsieur le ministre du Travail chargé de la formalisation de la protection sociale de Djibouti, Excellence, Madame, Messieurs les ministres du Travail, et puis l'Igad, Excellences, Monsieur le secrétaire exécutif de l'Igad, Monsieur le représentant de la commissaire en charge de la santé, des affaires humanitaires, sociales de la Commission de l'Union africaine, Monsieur le représentant de l'Union européenne à Djibouti auprès de l'Igad, Excellences, les ambassadeurs, Madame la directrice régionale du BIT, chers collègues du système des Nations Unies, Mesdames, Messieurs, chers partenaires, tout protocole observé, salam alaikum, bonjour, good morning to all of you. C'est avec un grand plaisir que je prends part ce matin à la conférence ministérielle de l'Igad sur l'emploi, le travail, la migration des travailleurs. Je suis honoré, en tant que représentant des Nations Unies ici à Djibouti, d'avoir été associé à cet événement de partage, d'échange, mais aussi d'action, en droite ligne des efforts de l'Union africaine à travers la création de la zone de libre-échange continentale africaine, la région de l'Igad, en tant que l'une des communautés économiques régionales, et ses États membres ont pris les mesures importantes pour faire progresser l'intégration régionale dont la libre circulation des personnes est un pilier essentiel. À cet égard, je voudrais féliciter l'Igad d'avoir adopté le protocole sur la libre circulation des personnes dans la région de l'Igad lors de sa 72e session du Conseil des ministres des Affaires étrangères. Sa mise en œuvre jouera un rôle clé dans la facilitation de la libre circulation des personnes, l'intégration régionale, le commerce et l'investissement dans la région. Mesdames, Messieurs, malgré une croissance économique forte enregistrée dans l'ensemble de la région, elle ne s'est pas encore traduite par la création suffisante d'emplois durables. Les marchés du travail ont du mal à absorber chaque année un grand nombre de candidats à l'emploi, l'absence d'une base économique diversifiée, un accès limité à l'éducation, à des formations qualifiantes adaptées aux besoins de main-d'œuvre, ainsi que l'absence de la protection de base excluant de nombreux jeunes et de travailleurs la pleine participation à la croissance économique et au développement de leur communauté et de leur pays. Cette situation explique en grande partie la migration de tant de jeunes à la recherche de meilleures opportunités d'emploi vers d'autres régions, où la demande de travailleurs dans un secteur spécifique dans des conditions plus décentes et plus dynamiques. Là où les travailleurs migrants sont mieux protégés par des cadres juridiques et une application efficace, une migration sûre et ordonnée est plus susceptible d'apporter des contributions économiques et sociales au niveau national et dans notre région. Mais les avantages de la migration ne sont pas toujours partagés de manière égale par tous. Les accords bilatéraux sur le travail, entre autres, jouent un rôle clé dans la mise en œuvre de la protection des travailleurs migrants. À cet égard, je voudrais également saluer le travail accompli par l'OIT, l'Organisation internationale du travail, et l'Igad pour élaborer une ligne directrice régionale sur les accords bilatéraux de travail. Mesdames, Messieurs, la conférence de ce jour se veut un espace pour discuter sur les voies et moyens pour améliorer la coordination et les actions visant à renforcer la collaboration régionale sur les problématiques de travail et d'emploi. Je voudrais me féliciter des efforts déployés pour améliorer la gouvernance des migrations de main-d'œuvre. Il faut situer cet aspect essentiel dans le contexte plus large de la gouvernance et de la coopération en matière de migration. Faisant ainsi écho à l'objectif 23 du Pacte mondial sur la migration, relatif au renforcement de la coopération internationale et des partenariats mondiaux pour la migration sûre, ordonnée et régulière. Enfin, je souhaite souligner les liens entre la conférence ministérielle de l'Igad sur l'emploi, le travail et la migration de la main-d'œuvre avec le forum ministériel régional sur la migration pour l'Est et la Corne de l'Afrique, qui favorise l'harmonisation des politiques de migration de la main-d'œuvre pour améliorer l'accès à des emplois décents, renforcer la protection des travailleurs migrants de la région et soutenir les efforts d'intégration régionale et le développement de la région. Mesdames, Messieurs, la problématique de l'emploi est un axe clé du travail des Nations Unies. L'agenda 2030 nous demande des efforts communs pour parvenir au plein emploi productif et à un travail décent pour toutes et tous, y inclut ceux en situation de vulnérabilité, notamment les travailleurs migrants. Ces aspects sont pris en charge par l'ODD 8 sur le travail décent et la croissance économique et son objectif 8.8 concernant la promotion d'environnements de travail sûrs et sécurisés pour tous les travailleurs, y compris pour les travailleurs migrants, en particulier les femmes migrantes. Et l'objectif 10 sur la réduction des inégalités et son objectif 10.7 qui promeut une bonne et juste gouvernance des politiques migratoires. Excellences, honorable assistance, en ma qualité de coordinateur résident du système des Nations Unies ici à Djibouti et au nom de mes collègues, je tiens à vous réitérer notre entier engagement à continuer à soutenir vos efforts et je voudrais également féliciter l'Igad et l'OIT pour l'organisation de cette importante rencontre. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Mr. Eric, and we thank United Nations for the support and coordination always with Igad and its member states. Now I call upon ILO Assistant Director General and Regional Director for Africa, Ms. Sentina Samuel. The floor is yours.
Igad. Let me start by expressing my appreciation to His Excellency, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Djibouti, for the very, very warm welcome, given to all of us who are physically present and for associating us with this event. Your Excellency, the Executive Secretary of Igad, Your Excellency, the Commissioner for Social Affairs, Your Excellencies, Ministers of Labor and Employment of Djibouti, Ethiopia, Kenya, Somalia, South Sudan, Sudan and Uganda, Your Excellency, the EU Ambassador to Djibouti and Igad, distinguished representatives of the regional social partner organizations, HACTO and CIE, distinguished representatives from partner organizations, and I particularly recognize the UNRC, who already made a statement, as well as sister agencies. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a great honor to be with you today at this very important Igad Ministerial Conference on Labor, Employment, and Labor Migration. This conference takes place within a spirit of consultation, dialogue, and partnership in order to promote decent work as a collective assignment. I'm grateful to everyone who has made this a reality, and I want to particularly thank the Executive Secretary of Igad and his team, particularly Madam Fatia Alwa, the Director of Health and Social Development, for the vision, hard work, collaboration, which has led to where we are today. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the founding leaders of Igad were motivated by a vision where the people in that region would develop a regional identity, live in peace, and enjoy a safe environment in order to promote socioeconomic development. Similarly, the International Labour Organization's founding leaders were motivated to promote social justice based on the knowledge that, I quote, lasting peace can only be established if it is based on social justice for all. As such, the ILO promotes rights at work and decent employment opportunities, while also enhancing social protection and strengthening dialogue at all levels, be it global, regional, national, or at the enterprise. We are privileged to be partners with Igad. The Igad region is endowed with immense untapped natural and human resources, with a relatively youthful population, and this was referenced by the Igad Executive Secretary. In fact, statistics show that about 62% of the population are aged below 25. With the appropriate investment in skills, entrepreneurship, appropriate infrastructure and technology, as well as fostering innovation, the region has the great potential to transform its economies, generate wealth, and create employment opportunities. The Igad region is also a considerable area of promise for economic growth, particularly in the medium term. Before the outset of the COVID-19 pandemic, the economy of the region was expected to grow at 6% per annum from 2020 to 2025. Those are IMF estimates. Obviously, with the COVID pandemic, this has been disrupted. Globally, the pandemic has exacerbated the pre-existing structural challenges and decent work deficits in many regions, and this has resulted in greater inequalities. Recovery efforts from COVID-19 shocks remain unequal and uncertain across the regions. The uncertainties are as a result of future variants of the virus, which are generally unpredictable, and disparities in the access to vaccines. This, together with other factors, require global concerted efforts, including fiscal policies, fiscal support, and other measures to address decent work deficits. According to the ILO World Employment and Social Outlook, WESO 2020, the pandemic struck in Africa at the time when most countries were positively recovering from the effects of the economic crisis arising from the fall in commodity prices that took place around 2014. This had imposed challenges in the limited space in private and public finance, increased debts and fragile fiscal situations in many African economies. In addition to the loss of 4 million net jobs and an additional 13 million foreign jobs, the socioeconomic shock of the pandemic has further brought a challenge of more decent work deficits and vulnerability, particularly to those in the informal economy. Coupled with the measures to address the pandemic, the youth, migrants, and persons with disabilities have been really more severely affected. In addition, it's important to note that the pandemic did not affect all workers in the same manner. The impact on women was more severe. Traditional segregation and stereotypes, which made women to be overrepresented in sectors such as food, retail, accommodation, and hospitality, further exacerbated the plight of women, since these are the sectors in which they dominate, and these are the sectors that were hardest hit by the lockdown measures. The summary of the impact of the pandemic that I've just quickly glossed over have given us the clear understanding that and recognition that our labor markets are indeed very fragile. And it has brought to the fore the importance of the centrality of a people-centered recovery process. It is important then within the Igad region, as it is in other parts of the world, that efforts should be geared towards deliberately orienting growth to promote jobs, decent work, and not poverty perpetuating work. Labor markets are still struggling to absorb large numbers of new entrants into the labor force each year. This Ministerial Conference on Labor and Employment is taking place just after the ILO adopted the global call to action for a human-centered recovery from the COVID-19 crisis, a recovery that is inclusive, that is sustainable, and that is resilient. This global call, which is anchored on the Centenary Declaration of the ILO, which was adopted in 2019, has underscored the importance of a human-centered and globally coordinated recovery from the crisis, which is based on solidarity. It has emphasized that the recovery process has to include the social partners, and it should be carried out through social dialogue, and it must show a respect for fundamental principles and rights at work. It has also enjoined the ILO to collaborate with relevant regional and international organizations like Igad in the provision of technical support and coordination of recovery efforts by ILO member states. The meeting is also very timely, as it is a great opportunity for Igad to take action on the Global Accelerator on Jobs and Social Protection, which was announced a few weeks ago by the UN Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres, at the UN high-level event on jobs and social protection for poverty reduction. Until now, IGAD ministers responsible for labor and employment did not have a platform to regularly meet and deliberate on key issues within the remit. The ILO warmly welcomes this vision of establishing this platform from member states and the Secretariat. It is expected that the establishment of this IGAD Committee on Labor and Employment is going to play a catalytic role in enhancing employment opportunities for the growing youthful population and contribute to socioeconomic development with the potential to create decent jobs. The committee could also act as a critical advisory organ for the implementation of the IGAD Protocol on the free movement of persons and the promotion of regular migration and decent work. The ILO is very pleased to have contributed to this process through its team led by Alexio Musindo, the director of our office in Addis. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, exactly 10 years ago in 2011, through the decision adopted by the Assembly of Heads of States and Governments of the African Union on the need to develop a regional approach to the challenges of peace and security in the Horn of Africa, the stakeholders, including IGAD, the development partners, the AUC, and the ILO, committed to implementing the regional strategy on the Horn of Africa, which is entitled Employment for Peace, Stability, and Development. The ILO remains totally committed to this initiative, as well as all the key issues identified within the MOU and the issues that were agreed on at that conference. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this conference also takes place under the framework of the Labor Migration Project, which is implemented by the ILO and IGAD, and with the financial support of the European Union. As we know, the IGAD region is positioned on a number of significant migration routes to the north, south, and Middle East. According to various studies, labor migration from IGAD member states to other regions has increased exponentially in recent decades, and the Executive Secretary of IGAD already made reference to this. The main structural driver of this exponential increase is the lack of decent work opportunities at home and demand for workers in specific sectors abroad. Several governments in the IGAD region are increasingly aware of these common challenges and are implementing different initiatives and programs to promote decent work of their citizens abroad and the citizens at home. However, the magnitude and nature of the problem equally calls for a regional approach to some of the common challenges, both in the context of regional integration, the AFCTA, and also regulated labor mobility. In this regard, I'd like to extend my sincere gratitude and thanks to His Excellency Ambassador O'Hara from the European delegation in Djibouti and his team for the trust and the support to promote free movement within the IGAD region. Through the project, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to cite a few of the achievements that have been made so far that are relevant to our conversation. New knowledge has been generated for efficient labor migration governance, and this is particularly important within the context of what the Executive Secretary of IGAD said earlier about data for policy, to inform policy and to inform interventions. I invite all delegates to take advantage of the findings of the numerous studies undertaken to assess labor migration governance in each IGAD country and within the region itself, the analysis of migrant workers and how they are integrated into domestic labor markets, the scoping analysis of skills recognition, and all other such studies that have been undertaken. The impact of COVID-19 on migrant workers in IGAD, as well as the assessment of the nexus between climate change, employment, and labor migration. These are just some of the studies that have been undertaken, and the results are very useful in terms of influencing policies as well as program. A second area has been in the area of capacity building. The project extensively builds the capacity of policymakers, not just in the ministries of labor and employment, but also in the ministries of interior and foreign affairs, in addition to the work done with the social partners. An expert reference group on employment and labor migration composed of experts from member states has been established. This is a very, very important initiative, and it is hoped that this structure will be, this expert group will be institutionalized within the Igad structure. A third area is the contribution to promoting rights-based labor migration policies, strategies, and governance in the region. The Igad guidelines on bilateral labor agreements that has been established through the work of the project is very commendable. The adoption of the guidelines should, however, lead to extending protection to migrant workers from the region and promote a common position to increase member states' negotiating and bargaining power with other countries of destination, so as to have more favorable conditions of work for migrants from the Igad region. The project successfully planted the seeds for a strong social dialogue at the regional level through the support for the establishment of a sub-regional employers body and trade unions. The creation of the Horn of Africa Confederation of Trade Unions, HACTU, and the Confederation of Igad Employers, CIE, is a key demonstration of the impact of the program. One promising result that the project is working on is the formulation of the Youth Employment and Skills Initiative, YESI, which will help to identify regional and national priorities on skills development and youth employment. Once formulated, this initiative will require strong leadership from the Igad Secretariat, strong technical assistance from the technical partners, as well as financial support for its implementation. The ILO is fully committed to supporting this important initiative, which is one of the key priorities of the 2019 Abidjan Declaration on the Future of Work in Africa. And this was adopted by African ministers of employment and labor, as well as senior level representative leaders of employers and workers organizations. Excellencies, honorable ministers, representatives of our social partners, dear partners, allow me to highlight some of those key issues that are in the declaration that we see as particularly relevant for Igad, even as I close. One, accelerating the extension of social protection in Africa. With the impact of COVID-19, the extension of social protection becomes more pertinent. As indicated earlier, just about 17% of Africans have access to the most basic form of social protection. Most of those who are excluded are in the informal economy, and many are locked in a vicious cycle of vulnerability, poverty, and social exclusion. For political, economic, social, and even national, regional, continental, and global security, we have to accelerate the extension of social protection in Africa. Indeed, we will not in Africa achieve the SDGs if we do not accelerate social protection coverage. The ILO has developed the strategy to more than double the current social protection coverage level to 40% from a current level of 17%, and this to be done by 2025. The second area that I want to bring to your attention that is particularly relevant, and the minister already alluded to this, transition from informal to formal economy. Most of those employed in Igad are in informal jobs, particularly vulnerable and at risk of decent work deficits. Due to the COVID pandemic, the extension of social protection is the priority for this group in the immediate term. However, a longer-term view of transforming the informal economy is necessary if we are to ensure inclusive economies. We invite, and I personally invite Igad ministers and the social partners to actively participate in the implementation of the AU-ILO program on decent work for the transformation of the informal economy, which was endorsed by African ministers of labor and employment during the last STC on social development, labor and employment. The third area just transitions, and green jobs. The promotion of decent work dimensions of climate change-related migration is particularly relevant in the Igad region, where land degradation and desertification have created massive displacement, as well as increased migration at all costs, thereby increasing the decent work deficit, specifically for vulnerable workers. With an estimated 59% of jobs in Africa relying on ecosystem services, the ILO is supporting countries, including those in the Igad region, to include just transition and decent work creation in their nationally determined contribution on climate change. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is important for us to talk about child labor because it's not only critical globally, but it's very critical for us in Africa. We know that this year is the International Year for the Elimination of Child Labor. And we applaud the African Union for launching the event and celebrating this continentally. I also applaud the Republic of Djibouti, our host, for being the first African country to pledge its commitment to eliminating child labor under the framework of the 2021 action pledges. Such a priority should come high in the agenda of the Igad Secretariat, the member states, and thereby contributing to the implementation of the African Union 10-year action plan to eradicate child labor, forced labor, human trafficking, and modern slavery. As I speak, the face of child labor in the world is the face of an African child. Africa has the highest number of children who are working. Africa has the highest incidence of child labor. Africa seems to be leading, unfortunately, in the wrong thing, which is the worst forms of child labor. I plead with all of you ministers and all those who are part of this conversation to ensure that we all work together to remove this scourge and ensure that we meet the SDG target of eliminating the worst forms of child labor in Africa by 2025. As I conclude, Your Excellencies, honorable ministers, representatives of social partners, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to extend my call to honorable ministers responsible for labor and employment of Igad to consider adopting the terms of reference and operating procedures of the Igad Committee on Labor and Employment. This adoption should be followed by clear instructions from ministers to the Secretariat and to us partners to formulate and implement the plans of action in order to ensure that this document is not just talk, but results in concrete action. By doing so, Igad member states will bring more impetus to the regional framework for promoting employment and decent work and fulfill the vision of the founders of this regional organization. Again, my gratitude to the EU for the technical and financial support to the ILO and Igad in implementing this shared vision for a free movement regime in the region and to improve opportunities for regular migration and mobility. The ILO reiterates its commitment to continued engagement with and support to Igad and its member states on all issues pertaining to decent work. I wish the conference every success in its ongoing discussions. Thank you so very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Assistant Director General Zinzi. And also we want to thank ILO for working together very closely with our member states as well as Igad. And also this coordination was instrumental to have this kind of very important meetings. Thank you very much. Now I call upon the representative of European Union, that is His Excellency Ambassador Aidan O'Hara. The floor is yours, Your Excellency.
Good morning, Your Excellency, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Djibouti, Mr. Abdul Kader Kamil Mohammed, Your Excellencies, the Ministers for Labour and Employment, Your Excellency, the Executive Secretary of Igad, Dr. Workana Gebeyehu, the distinguished regional directors of the ILO, Cynthia, Samuel, Olong, Juan, and Alexio Musindo, Eric, the UN resident coordinator, my colleagues, the ambassadors and distinguished representatives of international organizations and social partner organizations. Thank you for the opportunity to intervene this morning. Africa is becoming the world's most entrepreneurial continent, where 1 in 5 people of working age is starting their own business. But these businesses are often very small, operating in fragile economic environments and facing obstacles aggravated by the pandemic. As you know better than I do, we need to align skills with labour market demand. We need, for example, to invest in remote learning and revamp education and training schemes. The European Union, African Union Ministerial meeting takes place next week in Kigali, and ministers from across Europe and Africa will be discussing investment in people and skills development. Today's meeting, the Igad Ministerial Conference on Labour and Employment, is the first of its kind. So congratulations for taking this initiative, but congratulations also for being so timely. Today's deliberations on Igad's youth, employment and skilling initiative send a strong message to Kigali that the countries of the Horn of Africa are forging ahead on investment in people and in skills development. Our interest in your proceedings stems from the European Union's support, together with the ILO, for the Igad protocols on free movement of persons and transhumance in the region. Our interest in the free movement of persons and transhumance here stems from Europe's own experience with the free movement of people, goods, services, and capital. These 4 freedoms are at the heart of our internal market. Our single market gives tariff-free and barrier-free access to 500 million people across 27 member states. It's the biggest market of its type in the world. It's without question the biggest success the European Union has to its name. But when we set out over 60 years ago to set up that market, we didn't use the same terminology. Back then we spoke of the free movement of workers rather than the free movement of people. So workers, employers, trades unions and labour conditions were at the very centre of our preoccupations when we started building our single market. There's a big sign at the entrance to the Labour Ministry here in Djibouti. It has only 2 words, but says all we need to say about the work of this conference. It says emploi décent, or decent employment. The Minister, His Excellency Isman Ibrahim Roble, should be commended for finding such a succinct mission statement. Finding and creating jobs is a tough task, and making sure they're decent is another. Bilateral agreements are a tool that can help here. The role of the social partners in this area cannot be understated, and it's really reassuring to see the trades unions and employers' organizations included in today's proceedings. And I know that this perspective is shared by the ILO, the co-organizer of the conference. So I've mentioned decent jobs. Now let me mention an elephant in the room, which I think has been mentioned earlier. The elephant in the room is the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, the ACFTA. The agreement is already operational, and as people-to-people and commercial exchanges multiply, it will establish new facts on the ground that will require a wide range of smart responses, especially in the area of labour and employment. And believe me, we know what we're talking about in Europe, because it's exhausting when policymakers have to play catch-up. So let me say a word on what will probably be the main outcome of the conference: the creation of an Igad Ministerial Committee on Employment and Labour Migration. Your committee and the other sectoral committees like it will help keep you ahead of the game if you take a regional approach. It can help you manage developments created by the ACFTA. You can take charge of the market and make sure it works not just freely, but fairly. The creation of this committee is also of more significance to us, the EU, than you might realise, because our ways of working in the region are changing. We want to work together in the region where your interests and our objectives coincide. Sometimes this will involve Igad, sometimes not. Dr. Workana will not thank me for saying that I sometimes describe him and his colleagues in the Secretariat as the prisoners of Igad's own member states. When the member states want to move forward, the Secretariat can move mountains. But if the motivation is not there at political level, little can be achieved. So political engagement through platforms such as this committee helps people like me champion the case of Igad in Brussels. So thank you. The committee is essentially the starting point for further policy coordination. Please do not forget that Europe does this already, and if you wish, we have experts who can share the benefit of their experience. I'm not in the building today, but my colleagues are in the room, Bernard and Kaisha, and they are with you because we take a very close interest in what you do. Good luck with the conference, and I really hope you give us a really good story to tell ministers next week in Kigali. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency Ambassador Aiden. And also I want to take this opportunity to thank European Union, a very important partner of Igad and its member states, and working very closely in all activities of our organization, especially on the protocol of free movement and other activities in all areas. So personally, I want to thank my friend Ambassador Aiden and the European Union. Now I left with two very important activities, Your Excellencies. So I call upon our chair, Ms. Sira Mohammed. I'm sorry. Sira Al-Munori Mohammed Al-Tayyib. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Taysir Al-Nourani Mohammed Al-Tayyib, the Minister of Labor and Administrative Reform in Sudan. I'm welcoming everybody here. Please let me speak my speech in Arabic and put just the headphones to hear the translation. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. باسم الشعب السوداني، باسم شهداء ثورة ديسمبر المجيدة، أحيي سعادة معالي السيد رئيس وزراء جمهورية جيبوتي أخي عبد القادر كامل، السادة وزرائه في حكومة جيبوتي، معالي السادة سعادة وزراء العمل بالدول الأعضاء في إيجاد، معالي السيد السكرتير التنفيذي للإيجاد، معالي أعضاء لجنة سفراء الإيجاد، معالي سفير الاتحاد الأوروبي بجمهورية جيبوتي والإيجاد، السيد المدير القطري لمكتب منظمة العمل الدولية، السيد ممثل مفوضية الاتحاد الأوروبي، السيد ممثل الأمم المتحدة بجيبوتي، السيد ممثل السيدات والسادة الخبراء من الدول الأعضاء في الإيجاد، السيدات والسادة الشركاء من أصحاب العمل والعمال، الحضور الكريم بمختلف مقاماتكم السامية، صباحكم ألف خير والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله. يطيب لي في مستهل حديثي هذا أن أخص بالشكر جمهورية جيبوتي لاستضافتها الكريمة لهذا المؤتمر الهام الخاص بوزراء العمل بدول الإيجاد، والذي نعتبره منصة هادفة وهامة لمناقشة قضايا العمل والهجرة في الإقليم. وأثمن هذه المبادرة الطيبة والشراكة المثمرة والتعاون اللامحدود بين الإيجاد ومنظمة العمل الدولية والاتحاد الأوروبي، والتي كان من أهم نتائجها العمل على إنشاء لجنة إيجاد الوزارية للتوظيف والعمل وهجرة العمال، مما يمكنها من تعيين لجان قطاعية متخصصة للقيام بمهام محددة. ويعد اللقاء الحالي خطوة قوية في سبيل إيجاد منصة تجمع وزراء العمل بالإقليم كمنبر لمناقشة التحديات والفرص والاستراتيجيات من أجل تحسين فرص العمل اللائق والمنتج لمواطني الإقليم أينما كانوا في دول الإيجاد. ولا يفوتني في هذه السانحة الإشادة بحفاوة الاستقبال وكرم الضيافة والذي عاهدناه من إخوتنا في الشقيقة جيبوتي ومنظمي المؤتمر الإيجاد ومنظمة العمل الدولية والاتحاد الأوروبي. وأخص بالشكر السادة الخبراء من الدول الأعضاء الذين بذلوا جهدا مقدرا في اجتماعات سابقة وخلال اليومين السابقين في مناقشة واعتماد الوثيقة المرجعية للجنة الوزارية والموجهات التشغيلية الأساسية، بالإضافة إلى مناقشة الإعلان. السيدات والسادة الكرام، يتمتع الإقليم بكثافة سكانية عالية مع وجود شريحة عريضة من الشباب، إلى جانب وجود موارد طبيعية وبشرية ضخمة تؤهله لأن يكون رائداً في مجالات التوظيف والتنمية في حال العمل الجاد للاستفادة القصوى من هذه الموارد، وذلك عبر تحسين أسواق العمل وتنمية المهارات وتطوير البنى التحتية والابتكار. التحديات الإقليمية في سوق العمل وهي تحديات مشتركة بين الدول الأعضاء في الإيجاد، وبالتالي فالحلول المقترحة لمواجهتها يجب أن تكون مشتركة بين هذه الدول. وفي تقديرنا أن بروتوكول حرية الحركة والتنقل في دول الإيجاد سيسهم كثيرا في تحقيق هذه الأهداف والتوجهات المشتركة بين الدول الأعضاء، لا سيما بعد تفعيل دور وزراء العمل من خلال هذه اللجنة الوزارية. إن وجود لجنة تعني بالتوظيف والعمل في إيجاد سوف يضع على عاتق الدول الأعضاء مسؤوليات متعددة لتطبيق مخرجات هذه اللجنة، وضرورة حث الدول الأعضاء على الالتزام بتطبيقها. أيضا يجب علينا الاهتمام بشريحة النساء في هذا الإقليم في مجالات التوظيف المختلفة وتأثيرهم الكبير بكوفيد-19 التي أثرت على مجالات العمل المختلفة على جميع شرائح المجتمع وخاصة النساء في المناطق الأكثر هشاشة. السادة الحضور، السودان كرئيس للإيجاد للدورة الحالية يبارك هذا الجهد ويؤمن على أهمية هكذا لجان لتحقيق الأهداف المشتركة بين الإيجاد ومنظمة العمل الدولية والاتحاد الأوروبي. وتمنى في ختام هذا المؤتمر الإجازة النهائية لجميع توصيات لجنة الخبراء الخاصة في هذه اللجنة، وأشكركم شكرا جزيلا لحسن استماعكم. شكرا جزيلا.
Thank you, Excellency Mr. Al-Murani Mohammed Al-Tayyib, Minister of Labor for the Republic of Sudan and our chair. Let me take this opportunity also to thank the Republic of Sudan, our chair, for His Excellency Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok, and all the ministers who really working, directing this organization very closely. And really, I want to appreciate for the effort of the people and the government of Sudan. Let me do it from here. Now, the official opening session. It is an honor and privilege to call
His Excellency, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Djibouti, His Excellency Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed, to officially open this very important meeting. Your Excellency.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres du Travail, de l'Emploi des pays frères de l'Igad, Monsieur le ministre du Travail de la République de Djibouti, chargé de la formalisation et de la protection sociale, Mesdames et Messieurs les membres du gouvernement, Monsieur le directeur régional de l'Organisation internationale du travail, Monsieur le secrétaire exécutif de l'Igad, Mesdames et Messieurs les experts nationaux, Mesdames et Messieurs de différents corps constitués, tout protocole observé. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. C'est un réel plaisir pour moi de parrainer un événement qui réunit tous les pays frères de l'Igad afin de discuter, d'échanger et de trouver des solutions ensemble sur une thématique ô combien importante pour l'avenir de nos concitoyens de l'Igad et de l'Afrique de façon générale. Parler du travail et de l'emploi revient de façon substantielle à parler de la problématique du chômage. Le chômage est un problème de développement multidimensionnel qui doit être résolu à travers des partenariats multipartites pouvant s'attacher à développer des solutions holistiques pour relever les défis importants du chômage, en l'occurrence chez les jeunes. Mesdames et Messieurs, vous n'êtes pas sans savoir qu'en l'absence d'espoir pour leur avenir, les jeunes Africains deviennent la proie facile des groupes terroristes ou des trafiquants d'êtres humains qui leur promettent l'Eldorado et ils finissent par périr. À ce sujet, je n'ai pas vu des chiffres de cette situation dans la note conceptuelle de cette conférence. Toujours est-il que c'est un paramètre à ne pas négliger. Je suis sûr que l'expertise en tiendra rigueur pour proposer les différentes recommandations. En parlant des recommandations, comme vous le savez sûrement, l'agenda 2063, l'Afrique que nous voulons, de l'Union africaine, nous avons affirmé notre volonté d'éliminer le chômage des jeunes, hommes et femmes, de garantir le plein accès des jeunes à l'éducation, à la formation et aux compétences à la technologie, aux services de santé et aux opportunités économiques. Nous nous sommes engagés également de leur apporter les moyens financiers et les ressources nécessaires pour leur permettre de réaliser tout leur potentiel. J'évoque effectivement ces résolutions parce que chaque pays que vous représentez ici s'est lancé depuis lors sur des réformes institutionnelles, juridiques et organisationnelles pour rendre efficients et effectifs ces engagements. C'est pourquoi, depuis mai 2021, nous avons à Djibouti réorienté et élargi les missions du ministère du Travail en mettant l'accent sur la protection sociale par le biais du mécanisme de la formalisation. Bien que ces mesures ont été accompagnées à la mise en place des programmes à caractère palliatif et complémentaire, tels sont les cas des politiques de formation professionnelle, des professionnels politiques, des créations d'emplois par les travaux d'infrastructures à haute intensité de main-d'œuvre et politiques de promotion de l'emploi autonome sont autant d'interventions qui ont connu un essor considérable à Djibouti. Je suppose que les mesures sont similaires dans vos pays respectifs. Mesdames et messieurs, penser communément sur la question de l'employabilité est une initiative louable et mérite des encouragements de notre part, mais repenser à une approche participative en unissant nos forces au sein de notre organisation de l'Igad va paraître innovante et consciencieuse. Cette conférence va permettre à proposer et à formuler des stratégies, des recommandations concrètes grâce auxquelles les pays de l'Igad pourront contribuer de façon significative à la promotion de la création d'emplois dans un contexte marqué par la crise sanitaire de la pandémie Covid-19. J'espère que les experts, en discussion depuis plusieurs mois et depuis 2 jours dans notre pays, ont pris en compte des éléments que je crois indéniables aux différentes recommandations que vous allez émettre à la fin de cette journée. Il s'agit d'envisager la création d'emplois dans les secteurs porteurs et notamment transport et stockage agricole, multiplier les démarches pour le commerce continental,